Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Decryption and I hope you are well. In the previous medic tutorial we made it so we now had quest timers and a whole UI. So as we start, the timer starts ticking down and we have a set amount of time in order to complete it before the game fails. It even gives you boosts when you pick people up and complete the quests. However, there is one glaring flaw in our logic, that if you simply get straight out, it ends the quest straight away, that's it. Now this might be functionality that you want, that if you exit, that's it, mission over, in which case, thank you for watching. However, for those that want it to tick down all GTA style, where you have a set amount of time to get back in and then it resumes the quest, that's what we're going to work on today. So let's get started. At the moment, when you get out, it's on the vehicle medical cart itself. It checks if the quest is in progress and then tells it to quit the quest and basically jump to the failure. You've exited your vehicle. However, our actual timer control and everything we need to control the game logic is on the actual quest. So what I'm thinking is, since we actually get the vehicle here anyway, is if we do a slight modification, instead of casting to the base vehicle, we cast to our medical vehicle because it's on the medic quest. We can then check when the player picks up a passenger, when they exit, and when they get back in. All in our quest task nice and easily. So what I'm going to do is just remove this cast here to the vehicle and instead cast directly to a medic. If in the future we do find ourselves having multiple medical vehicles, we'll create a base medical vehicle which contains all the logic. But now what we can do is we can drag off of this and we can also bind onto when it's possessed. But we don't have any event for that at the moment, so let's go and set it all up. So back on our vehicle cart here, where we at the moment tell it to jump to the enter state of the quest failure, we'll cut that and we'll paste it into our quest for later, because we'll be using that shortly. Then we can basically get rid of most of this because it all takes care of itself now, like so. Next, we're going to jump back to the parent vehicle. So I'm going to create an event dispatcher called onPossessed, and this will tell us when somebody's taken over it or entered it. And I will also do on unpossessed. Up here, where we call unpossess, if it's not the player, we don't really mind, but we do want to call unpossessed event right here. And then on our event possessed, same thing, instead of it just being the player, because we don't worry about that, we want to know if anybody picks it up. So if somebody steals it, we can then call our on possessed like. What I think will be nice though is, just like I said, if somebody steals it, then we want the quest to instantly fail, potentially, or even keep counting down. So what I'm going to do is modify our on possessed to just pass in the controller who's taken over it, and then we can say if it's an AI, you know, it fails the quest or whatever. So we'll just set this to the same thing it is here, which is just a normal controller. And we'll pass in the new controller to the onPossessed. We'll do the same thing for on unpossessed. I can't imagine we're going to use it, but it might be useful. So on unpossessed, we'll also pass in the old controller line. So now, if we jump back to our quest here, we can now assign onto this. So assign on unpossessed. So if you basically get out of your vehicle, which is exactly what we've done, we can now say if the controller equals the player controller, so I'll get player controller, then it means the player has left it and, you know, not an AI, because we don't want the AI who's driving an ambulance to trigger it. Then we can grab the medic quest timer and we can call pause timer by handle. And then we will drag off the same thing over here and say assign on possessed. So this is when the player gets into it. But the difference with this one, we're still going to check if it's the player. But the difference is we're also going to check if the quest is currently paused. And this is mainly just the safety check. If the player's trying to spam in, out, in, out, in, out, we don't want it to fall over. So we're going to say only if it's paused, then can restart it. Because we don't want to restart the timer. It might cause issues. So we'll do unpause timer by handle if it's currently paused. So now, if we give it a quick test now, if we get out, it shouldn't fail the quest anymore. It should instead just stop the timer. So 8, 7, I'll get out. And you can see it's not failed. but it's not ticking. So even if we wait for the 7 seconds to disappear, the quest is frozen in time, which is exactly what we want. Because now we can start a new timer tracking the player, saying you've got 30 seconds to get back in your vehicle, and then it fails. However, if you did want it so both timers are running at the same time, as in you've got 30 seconds to get back in your vehicle, if you've got a minute left on the timer, you've got potentially 30 seconds to finish the game. Otherwise, the timer could fail the quest before the vehicle one. For me, I'm just going to say you've got 30 seconds to get back in your vehicle, then the timer kicks back in. But if you did want it so both timers are running, just don't pause it. Just let it keep running and it will deal with itself. But the difference with me is now that I've got all this separated, I can now start a timer on unpossessed here. So what I'm going to do is say, if it's true and we pause the timer, that means the player has exited the vehicle. So what I'm going to do is drag off of this and do timer by function, just like we did in the previous tutorial. The function name will be get back in timer. And again, we'll set it to 1 second and looping, and I'll promote it to a variable called get back in timer. And that's all we need to do there. I will create the function get back in timer, and I'll just call it update. And then just like we did for the previous one, I'll create a current get back in time. I'll give it a default value, so we'll say you've got 30 seconds. And then I will just keep taking it down off of this value, like so, de-incrementing it. When it eventually says it's less than or equal to 0, then I can connect it all up like so. And then true, this is where we can now drag in our quest failure to say you didn't get back into your vehicle. So we can come and cut this stuff here that we copied earlier, paste it onto the true here. However, we are going to want this timer on the screen telling the player to get back in. So that's a UI update we can do. So what I'm going to do is modify this event dispatcher and rename it from on timer to on medic quest timer update, so it makes more sense. I'll also do another one called on get back in timer update. I'll pass in the float to it so we know what the time is, new value. And then as we keep de-incrementing it, I'm going to move this across, call our new timer here. And then just like we did before, we can now use the UI to connect into it and then display this on screen. What I'm also going to do while we're here is just add a new event dispatcher called on get back in time started. So when we've officially gotten out of it and we've started the timer, I'm just going to call it before we start the timer here. And this lets us in the UI connect to it, hide all the UI, set the timer up visible, make it all there ready, and then each tick the timer is going to say tick it down. And then in theory, when we get back in, the timer should unpause itself and continue. So if I press C and just give this a comment saying on possessed, restart timer, finish, get back in time. So that is something we do need to do. So if it's the player controller who gets in it, we unpause the handle there. What we will also do is get the back in timer, and we will simply just do clear and invalidate like so to stop it from running. I think it's going to be a good idea that if we add another event dispatcher called on get back in time ended, as in you have got back in time, we can put that here to make sure it hides that specific UI as well. And this is one of the things we were mentioning last time, where we want to try and separate the UI away from it a little. This one over here is a fairly long one. This is for the unpossession when the player leaves. This one here is going to be when a passenger gets in, boost time. I'm going to set mine to 5 seconds while I'm here as well, just because my world's small at the moment. And then this one down here, when task is completed, remove the timer. If we get to this point, we really shouldn't have to worry about the get back in time. That's why I've not touched it. So now that we've got that, let's jump back to our widget. And we've got the two sections set up. We've got our progress and our start text. So let's think where we want to put the you have 30 seconds to get back in. So I'm going to go into the VB progress and I'll duplicate the HB time. I'll make it its own parent so it's not inside anything but the canvas. And I'll call this HB get back in time. I'll rename it to CT get back in time left. And then I'll rename the value of it to get back in time left. We'll set the text to be, say, 30 seconds. And then I can position this at the bottom of the screen, I think. We'll move it up, say 200. There we go. You have 30 seconds. So you can see we've got time left 30 seconds, and that will tick down, hopefully. However, I kind of want it to say you have 30 seconds to get back in the vehicle, and it goes 29, 28, 27, and it just stays on the screen. But for translation services, we don't want to be adding an extra timer underneath it, because in some languages, the timer's going to want to be at the beginning. 30 seconds, you have to get back in, versus you have 30 seconds to get back in. So if we have 3 or 4 labels, it's going to be hard to translate and not very efficient. So what I'm going to do instead is actually delete these off and just keep a single one, get back in time. I will come in and say time, you have seconds to get back in, just like that. And that's how we're going to deal with it in the code in a moment. So I'll make sure this HB has a visibility of collapsed by default, and I'll make sure it's a variable. And then back on the graph, this is where we can start binding to it and actually set that timer. So this is all the default stuff. By default, we should hide that HB because we don't want it visible. So I'll just come and grab the HB get back in time, set visible to collapsed, so it's not visible by default. So that's just in case you restart the quest after failing it. So we'll call this reset get back in time to invisible. So you can see here, we're casting to the quest minigame, which is everything we need. So all the way over the other side of this, I'm going to drag in our current quest instance. And now we can start binding to all the event dispatchers we set up before here. So the first one, we'll do the started. So I'll drag off and do assign on get back in time started. This one is going to be super simple because all we're doing is showing and hiding things. So the first thing we'll do is show the get back in time. Set visible to non-hit testable. And then what else do we want to hide? We should probably hide the time left sequence, so the VB progress. So we'll grab the VB progress and we will set the visibility to collapsed. And that's that one done. After this, we're going to want to do the finished. So we will do assign on get back in time ended. Connect all this up. Make a bit of space. And then we can copy this logic down here, paste it afterwards, and then we'll reset it all. So instead, it will now hide the get back in time and show the visibility. So we'll just wrap it in a comment while we're here. Get back in time ended. And this one, get back in time started. Now the final one we need to look over is we need to assign on the timer update. And luckily, we already have most of the logic we need for this because we did it on the previous timer, which is the update timer here. So I'm just going to quickly copy this bit over here. I'll come and paste it on this update down here, but we need to do some minor changes to it. So instead of just pasting the text directly in like that, I'm actually going to drag off backwards and do format. And this is where we can put the actual text in we put here with the curly brace. So you have seconds to get back in. I'll come and paste this here, and you'll see because we've put the curly brackets, it's given us a seconds drop down. So we can now connect this in like that, connect it all up. And now, translation wise, you have one string to modify. They will see the string like that. So if your translation, say, I think it's Japanese, would say seconds, you have to get back in. It means all you do is modify that one translation instead of dealing with 3 labels and having to swap them around and it becoming very confusing. So when we update the timer, it should update the text now. Just get our CT back in time, we'll make it a variable, and now we will put that in. Now if we try it this time, ladies and gentlemen, let's get in the car, start the quest, drive around, get out. It now says you have 28 seconds to get back in. How cool is that? If we get back in, it officially continues on from where it left off. So let's do it and bump it up. We can see it's 36, 35, 34. All right, I've got out at 34. We need to reset that quest timer, so that's one little thing we need to do. But I was on 34 if I get back in. One slight bug that we've discovered is if you get out and get back in, it will keep giving you time boosts. Meaning if we keep getting in, out, in, out, in, out, we'll essentially be able to glitch the game and get a huge boost on time. So as you can see, I'm now on 50 seconds. So we've got a few things to fix, but that's completely okay. So the first one, back on our quest here, if somebody gets into the vehicle as in a passenger, it adds 5 seconds. The only problem is the player is getting back in. So he counts as a passenger getting in, giving yourself 5 seconds. That's not great, but that's easily fixable. So what we're going to do is find this event dispatcher on our vehicle. So on passenger entered. And I'm actually going to say which passenger entered. So I'm going to say passenger, and we will pass in a simple poll. So the passenger that entered. I'll also do it on the exited because it's probably going to be nice if we did. And then on exit passenger, the passenger that's leaving will pass into the event dispatcher. And then on the adding of a passenger, we'll also do the same thing. And what this means now is on our quest here, before we actually tell it to apply the 5-second boost, we could technically say, is the player in the vehicle? But what we can also do is just do equals, and we will do get player pawn. So we're saying if it's the player getting back in the vehicle, then we don't want to do it on the false. That's where we won't do it. So if it's the player true, don't do anything. If it's not the player, add the time. The next thing we need to fix is when we got back into the vehicle and got back out again, the timer didn't reset itself. So on possessed, where we clear the timer and we say it's ended, what I'm going to do is just simply set the get back in time to 30 seconds again, or whatever you want it to be. And we'll hit compile and save. And the final tweak I want to do is I actually want the seconds to stand out quite a bit. So the way Narrative Common UI is set up is you have special styles that you can apply to text. So on here you'll see we've got these text styles. Because we're using a standard common text block, if we actually move to the rich common text block here, and we'll just rename it to be the same thing, we can actually apply special tags in the middle of text. So let's paste the text over it, like so. And you'll see it's all glitched out, but that's perfectly okay. If I come in now, select a style for it, so text style set, and I will just use the narrative default UI rich text. You see, it looks the same, but the benefit of this one, once we fix the bugs, is we can do special stuff with it. So if I drag in the get back in time, connect the new result to it, and connect it back across, we can delete the old one and keep the new one. You'll see compiling all works, but now what we can do is we have this default rich text UI here, where we can put these special tags on, and what it will do is apply these offsets to it, but only for those little bits. I believe this is an Unreal thing. You just use a rich text style row, and because we're using a rich text, what we can do is come in and in angle brackets, paste the one we want, afterwards close it off with a normal angle bracket. And if we hit compile and save, and we play it this time, you will see if we get in, start the quest and press escape, you'll see it says 28 and it is glowing differently. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? It now looks a lot nicer, it stands out a lot better, and for translation wise, it's a lot easier. So if we get back in and drive around, you see the timer is on 6. We get out, we wait for a bit, we get back in, the timer at the bottom's reset, and this is still on 6, carrying on. There we go, no more glitches. If I get out with 1 second to left, if we're going to leave it to run for 30 seconds, and we're going to see if we fail the quest. Then 3, 2, 1, and there we go. The quest has failed. So if I get back in, you can see it tells me to restart it, and it all starts from. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? It now looks really, really nice. There's one minor bug I just want to fix right at the start, and that is our UI simply says seconds when you first start it. So I'm going to simply grab the format text and this bit down here. I'll wrap this all in a function called update get back in timer text. That'll pass in everything we want there. I'll do the same thing up here, and I'll pass in just our default 30 seconds. And this time, when we get out of it for the first time, it won't show seconds, it will properly show the real value. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. How cool is that? So that is all for this tutorial. We now have a failure timer that's going to pause our other timers and fail the quest if you don't get back in time. In the next tutorial for this version, we're going to look at adding the animations for the pedestrians. So as you come up to them, we're going to make it so they walk up to the cart, you know, idly slow like they do. They crawl up, jump up, do whatever they need to. I'm going to figure a way to do that with the motion capture suit I've got. Maybe I'll climb on the sofa or something. And then we'll roll with that. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you've got any suggestions, because it's coming along very nicely now, please let me know. My name is Decryption, and I will see you next time.